My guest today is Lauryn Betterton. Lauryn is an entrepreneur and one of the founders of Bumble's Backyard, Columbus's first dog park slash bar slash community third space kind of hub. It's a pretty interesting place. Lauryn's story is really interesting. We talk about how when she first moved to Columbus, she was expecting it to be a temporary thing, but how she found community here and really embraced the city to build her business and to build what she has now is really interesting. So in this episode, we talk everything from great vegetarian places to eat, dogs, community, her business and work with OSU, and much more on this chronicle of the Columbus Chronicle.
We just opened in October. And I was actually listening to your land grant episode earlier this week.
With Adam?
Yes, which was awesome. And he said, I was like, oh my God, this is 100% right. But he was like, you do all this work to get to the opening. And you're like, okay, I've reached the end, but it's like, that is just the beginning. And we opened in October, but that was 4.5 years to get to that point. And so, it's this funny balance of like, we just opened, but also this was like a 4-year endeavor to get here. But it's been really fun. And we have been through a lot in those like today's the 26th. We've been open 8 months today. And we opened in October, which we were like, we've had really mild winters the last few years. So, it'll be fine. And we're an entirely outdoor business. We have no inside for guests except for like a bathroom. And so the first couple weeks we're like, this is fine. We're good. It's beautiful. It's Columbus in fall. Excellent. And then in December, we actually had one like 20-degree day where it like the weather dropped super quickly. And so we were like, we'll close early on this day, it's fine. No big deal. And then February happened, January happened, and it was just like a brick to the head of like, you've got to figure out how to make this work when it's 15 degrees outside. And that was really fun.
So your business is completely weather dependent.
Yeah, completely. Well, I would say yes on the weather dependent, but we are really becoming weather resilient, especially like this week. We have this like very complex flow chart for the winter of like, okay, if the wind we have like AccuWeather, like we had to check AccuWeather, like we've decided that's our profile or that's our platform. And it's like, okay, if the temperature is this and the wind chill is this, then like we do this. But if it's a weekend, we do this. And we had not thought about doing that for summer yet. And so this weekend we were like, got to do that for summer now. Good. Excellent.
How's it been handling with this like heat wave we've got going through?
It's been good. We drag out all of our kiddie pools and fill them with ice and water, and the dogs are very happy. And we have like lots of cold drinks, and we have cold beer and iced coffee and kombucha and tea. And on the weekends we have soft serve ice cream that we make ourselves, which is really fun and ridiculous but delicious. Kind of a cult following of the ice cream. So we're trying to keep everyone comfortable, lots of shade, things like that. But it's, people want to be out. And so and dogs are making them crazy. So it's like, yeah, come hang out, let your dog run around, you sit in the shade, have a drink, talk to someone, and then head on out.
Yeah. So before we get into the whole story of Bumbles, I want to hear your story. Are you from Columbus originally? How'd you get here?
Yeah. So my husband and I are both originally from just outside of Nashville. So both Tennesseans, and grew up there, went to college in Nashville. And whenever Evan was a year ahead of me, my husband was a year ahead of me in school, and he went to Tennessee, and he graduated and got this really great job in Columbus. We had no family up here. We had no friends up here. I had never been to Ohio. Whenever we both came up here, we had been dating a long time whenever he graduated, and we both came up for his final interview at this job. And the interview was in March. There was snow everywhere. It was bitter cold. The only thing I had was like a pea coat. And I was like, this should be enough. It was not. And so that was my first taste of Ohio. And I was like, this place is a wasteland.
And you still came.
So he was a year ahead of me. That's important because he got the job and I was still in school, and I was like, you go up there, you do that silly job thing. And after that first year, you can come back. So I never have to go. Okay, great. Famous last words. So then I graduated and I got a job where I was a consultant. I was traveling like every like 5 days I was on a plane was my average. And so I always said that like I moved to Ohio, but my stuff was in Ohio and I was everywhere. So I didn't really land here until 2016. And he was still at that job that he really liked. I was like, so we're gonna stay here. And he was like, for a little bit longer. It's like, okay. And I've been in Columbus 10 years now. So, and I love it. Like whenever we moved up, he had a job, on Emerald Parkway. So right by the Tuttle Mall. And this was before Bridge Park, like before Dublin, like took off. And when you're two 25-year-olds with no kids living in like a crummy apartment out in Dublin at that time, it was just like sad and lonely and like no one was our age. And it was just like really hard to make friends. And like I started working at Ohio State at the time and like my start time was 7:30, but I was making like $0. So I couldn't park in a garage. So I had to park in the Buckeye lot and like take the bus. So I had to leave our apartment at like 6:45 in the morning. And, which people who are like nurses and stuff, they're like, it must be nice. I'm like, so yes, I understand. But, so it was just like, it was not a good situation for like new transplants. And then once I got into Ohio State, Evan had always wanted to go to law school. And like on my orientation that day, on my first day, they were like, you're immediately eligible for dependent like tuition assistance. And I was like, even for graduate programs? They were like, yeah. So I come home and I was like, it's time. So he started studying for the LSAT and then took that and got into Ohio State. And we were like, okay, we're at least going to be here for 3 more years. We would love to be closer to campus. And we maybe should buy something because, we've been here a couple years now. And so we moved to Italian Village, bought a house there. And it was like, P.S. all this time, I hated Columbus. I was like, literally as soon as we can move out of here, I'm gone. Like, this is miserable. I'm not having a good time. I was not like on purpose, not making friends. It was like,
Yeah.
everyone's terrible.
This is temporary.
Yeah, this is temporary. It's fine. And we moved to Italian Village. We were able to like walk to things and bike to things. And I didn't have to get up at 6:45 anymore. I could walk to work. And I was like, well, this isn't so bad. And like we would go to a concert and walk there and like take the bus home. And then it was just kind of like creeping in of like, well, Columbus isn't so terrible. And just really fell in love with the city. Once I was in the city, absolutely fell in love with it. And, he went to Ohio State. And then I also went to Ohio State, got my MBA after that. And people kept saying, like, anytime we were reaching one of these milestones, like before Evan graduated school, like, are you guys going to move after you graduate? So like, I don't know. And then I started getting ready closer to graduation. Are you guys going to move when you graduate? I don't know. And then whenever we bought the property that our business sits on, and people would ask, like, well, you're going to move? Like, I think we're here. Like, I think we've established the roots now. And it's great. So that's my meandering path here.
That you bring up such a great point. When I lived in Hilliard, I was like, oh, I like Columbus. This is nice. But then when I moved here to Franklinton and, I could walk to Land Grant, honestly, I could take a bike to anywhere downtown within 20 minutes. It just changed my entire perception of the city by far.
Yep. Makes all the difference.
Was there a specific point when you're like, oh, this for sure, like, I like Columbus. This is where I want to stay.
Oh, man. I don't know. Have you ever read The Velveteen Rabbit, the book?
No, I don't.
Okay. So it's this kid's book. And I don't understand why it's a kid's book. It's like, it's really a kid's book, but it's for adults. And so over time, it's this like stuffed rabbit. And he is a new rabbit, a new toy for this little kid. And his like it's very Toy Story like of like he's in the playroom and he's getting to know all the other toys. And they tell him like at some point he realizes like that he's not real. And one of the other toys tells him like, well, you become real over time. And he was like, well, what does that mean? Like, when will I know that I'm real? And they're like, you just know. And so this feels very much like my love story to Columbus is like, there wasn't one thing where it was like, that was it. It was just like, this wearing on me where finally I was like, oh, I do love it here. Like I am really happy and comfortable here.
Yeah, well, what a deep book for a kid's book.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, this is not for the children.
What were you doing at Ohio State University?
Yeah, so I started, well, whenever I graduated college, I was going to take one gap year to like do something fun. And I originally I have an undergrad in neuroscience, which is bizarre, and a minor in dance because I went to a liberal arts school, which was also really fun. And my goal was always to be a pediatric speech pathologist. Like that was the plan. I was going to work at Vanderbilt Children's until I retired and do that work. And so I was really involved in like student life on campus at my college, and I was very involved in my sorority and in residence life. Those were like my two big things. I was an RA while I was in school, and my sorority has this program where you like can be a consultant for a year after graduation. You can travel all over the country, like training and teaching and doing leadership stuff for like all these different universities across their scope. And my advisor, my like sorority advisor was like, have you considered doing this? And I was like, no, like I gotta go straight to school. Like if I don't go to school, I'll never go back. And she was like, okay, well, I just think you'd be really great at it. Like you really love working with students, and like I see this in you, and your student life experience has been pretty like robust here. So, consider it. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever. So on a whim, I submitted an application. Fast forward, I got hired, and it was the most transformative experience of my entire life. It was the hardest job I ever had, will ever have. It was the most fun I will ever have at a job. I met so many incredible people. I got a lot of airline points. But what I really learned about myself is like I loved being on college campuses. I loved working with students. And so whenever that job ended, after that year, and I was moving to Columbus, I started looking at like student life jobs. Again, it's like maybe I'll give a little more time to this, not medical journey that I'm on. And so I ended up at Ohio State at the dental school doing student life, like just within that population. So working with the professional students in the dental program, and then the undergrad students in our dental hygiene program. And loved it, loved it, loved it. It was such a cool population to work with. I always said that like I did everything outside of the classroom when it came to their like journey. So it was really fun to like see them get married and have children and like get all of their certifications done. And like it was just really fun. And so I did that for 5 years. Yeah, I was there for 5 years. And then my boss at the time, who was just an incredible mentor, still is, and friend, she was like, hey, if you're going to stay at Ohio State, like you need to get another, like you got to go back to school. Like this is going to be your next path. And so she really encouraged me to start business school because I originally thought about doing like the higher education program. And she was like, do something that is 100% transferable to any skill. Like while that may be great, go consider this other thing. And she was 100% right. I loved business school. I started at Ohio State at Fisher. I did the like part-time program. So I was still working full-time and doing school on nights and weekends. And that really played in nicely to my love of small business and my love of businesses and like how they create community. I think that kind of ties into like me moving to Columbus and being like near where the things are. And that's when I kind of really had that turn. And whenever I started school, I was like, I think I'm going to enjoy this. And then I did. And I was not actively looking for jobs, but aren't we all always looking for jobs? And I knew I had to stay at Ohio State at least through when I finished my program. And so I was always looking on their website of like careers and things like that, and found another role that was at the Entrepreneurship Center. And this would be like running their mentor program and helping students get internships with small businesses and
Too
startups.
cool.
Right. I applied for it. I got it. I'm still there, actually. That's my full-time. I say that's the job that pays me. That's my full-time job. And so it was just such a great transition into, I love being on campuses. I love working with students, and I love small business. I love community. How can I like marry all these things quite nicely? So my Ohio State journey has been, again, like not a straight line, but has been really fun to like evolve as I have changed.
one of the things I wanted to ask, one more before we get into Bumble's. Tell me Bumble's story. Like, how did he come into the picture?
Yes.
She, I don't know. He, okay.
Yeah. Oh, what a great question. I never get to talk about the dog, so thank you for letting me talk about the dog. Um, so Evan and I started dating when we were children. I was 16 and he was 17. So like high school sweethearts, absolutely disgusting. And one of the first dates we ever went on was to see the Shia LaBeouf Transformers movie. And side note for Evan and me, I like knew, I know I was 16 and every 16-year-old says this, I'm sure. But I knew that Evan was like the one. I was like, this guy, we're together for life, like for sure. And he knew it too. So he was also weird like me. And so, you know, maybe this is like the third, fourth day we've gone on and we go in. It's important to note that at the time, he drove like a 90-something green, forest green Camaro with purple flames down the side and a purple underlight. It had T-tops. It was a situation. Yes. So he mostly wanted to go see the Transformers movie because of the cars, obviously, as every 17-year-old boy would. And so we come out of the theater and he says to me, and this is like a flashbulb moment. He says, one day when we grow up and get married, we should name our dog Bumblebee. And I said, that's a stupid name for a dog. And he was like, well, what about just Bumble? And I was like, that could work. And so we kind of kept this in our back pocket. And we would always talk about Bumble. Like it was like he was always there, which is like so
You had a dog
strange.
before you had a dog.
Exactly. We had this like imaginary dog Bumble. And then for our 1-year anniversary after we got married, we got Bumble. And which was so funny because all of our friends and family were like, oh my God, Bumble's finally real. It's like, yes, he's finally like an actual real dog. But yeah, we got him when he was a puppy and he just turned 8 in April. We had a big party for him at the park. And he's like the best dog. I know everyone says that about their dog, but he's like the actual best dog. And he's a golden doodle. He's very sweet and lazy. And he is like the world's greatest sidekick ever. He's a very good boy. He's become very popular. He has a lot of friends now. And so it's always fun. This morning I like swung by the park before I came here and Evan was already there working and one of our team members. And I just like let myself in and, you know, I go in the double gates and I unclip his leash and I send him in and I'm about to go inside and I hear the people who are outside say, Bumble! And I was like, that is so fun. Like, I love that he is like so loved by so many people the way we love him too.
God, I love that. Did you get him here in Columbus then?
Yes. So we got him, we moved into our house in Italian Village in April and we got him in June.
Okay, so
Yes.
right after that
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Columbus dog.
So tell me about Bumble's backyard. How did that come into existence?
Oh man. So this was a pandemic project and the longer story, because you know we're on this lovely couch, is during the pandemic, Evan and I, normally we would take Bumble to the park all the time. He loved going to the dog park, loved playing with friends. He is a fetch dog. So like, you know, we could throw a tennis ball as far as possible and he could run love. And so when in our community, in our neighborhood, like the dog parks were closing or it was really weird to be like, everything was weird. We can all agree everything was just weird. And so we were more comfortable of just like, we're just not going to go there. And so we have a weirdly good backyard at our house and fully fenced in. And so have you been to Apologies? Are you familiar with Apologies Pizza?
No.
Put a note in that.
Yes, I absolutely will.
Okay. So Apologies, back in the day, they would have 3 for $30. And whenever it first started, it was just dine-in, but during the pandemic, they still did like takeout on like, I can't remember if it was like Wednesday or Thursday night.
Like 3 pizzas for $30?
Pizzas for $30.
Incredible.
Wood-fired, like delicious.
Incredible.
Yes, beautiful pizza. And so what we started doing is we sat down, we made a running list of all the people we knew who had a dog. And we would on, let's say it was Wednesday night, whatever the special night was, on Wednesday nights, like, you know, a week before, we would go through our list and we'd be like, hey, Steph, do you want to come over and bring your dog next Wednesday for dinner? We'll sit in the backyard, we'll eat pizza, we'll drink some beers, dogs can play. And they would always be like, oh my God, yes, please. And so we called this backyard hangs. And it was like the best part of the week. A, the pizza, B, the friendship. C, it was so fun to see Bumble like play with another dog and like be off leash and really enjoy himself. And it was wonderful. And it really, during that time that could feel so isolating, was such a good reminder of the community that we had built in Columbus and how much people care about each other and how fun it is to be with dogs always. And so we kept, I don't even know like when that stopped. But it's like the fondest memory. Like I will remember that forever. And so we thought about this in connection to like our dog park experience. And we take Bumble everywhere, always. And so we're always taking him to a brewery patio or taking him on a walk or a hike with us. Like he's always there. And so we kind of thought about this in connection with like taking him to support all those small businesses. And he, everyone always loves having him around. And also like dog parks. Like dog parks are great, but they're kind of, you never know what you're going to get. And like everyone's in charge, so no one's in charge. And we're just thinking this community piece was just kind of like the squeaky wheel that like we just kept hearing. And we started talking about, well, what if we made a place that all of these things kind of like happen, where we do have this like great beer, good environment centered around dogs, but also there are people and building community and like making new friends and deepening relationships. And how are we celebrating the Columbus community? And one thing that whenever we moved to Columbus that we felt was really missing from growing up in Nashville was third spaces. Especially this is pre-pandemic and I haven't lived in Nashville in a decade, but like coffee shops would stay open till 10. And like there were beer gardens where it was just kind of like an environment and like you don't have to buy anything. You could just come hang out, and like everywhere just had this kind of like, won't you sit down and stay a while kind of feeling. And we really did not experience that when we moved to Columbus. And so then to kind of pull that thread farther and this could be a third space where you can come and you don't have to buy anything and you can sit with your friend who has a dog, or you can bring your dog, or you can just say like, wow, they have a great beer selection, or like their ice cream is really great. And I want to just sit and hang out and read a book and like have some beers, have a cocktail, whatever. And we immediately came up with the name Bumble's Backyard because alliteration we love, and we also knew like it had to have Bumble in the name because he is the inspiration. His NIL negotiations are ridiculous, the things we have to pay him, but we started like kind of noodling on this and like what would it look like and what would we do. And like I said, that was in 2020, and probably for a year we talked about this. And finally we got to a point where it's like, okay, we need to do something about this, or we need to like stop. Right, exactly. And so at that point, I started business school in the fall of 2020, a great time to go back to school. And so I really used like every single project that I could in school of like design a business and create the budget, or design a business and create the marketing plan, to work on Bumble's Backyard, which was a great opportunity because I got to hear feedback from my classmates, from my professors. I got to pitch the business 6 ways to Sunday all the time. And also I was building this kind of like bubble around me in school of like people would keep asking me about it. Of like, hey, I was in class with you 2 semesters ago. You mentioned this, like, where are we here? And they're like, well, shit, I have to like have an update for you now. So it was cool to kind of like even build that little like base of knowledge within my ecosystem. And so we kept talking about it. I was still in school, and in really the fall of 23 is we had been like working on the business plan, kind of fleshing this out, getting ideas for like how much it would cost. And in the fall of 23, I actually did an independent study for one of my classes. And I had this amazing professor, and we were doing like customer research on like what Bumble's backyard customers would look like, and like how we would market to them, and like what are they interested in. And it was probably one of the most invaluable experiences I had in school. And now anyone who's going to school, I'm like, figure out how to do an independent study. Like, it's so fun and helpful and like practical. And as we were like designing the course, my professor was like, well, what do you want your final to be? Like, how do what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'd like to present all this stuff because like I've worked really hard on it, and like there's so much to talk about. And he was like, well, why don't you do like a pitch? Like, why can't it be like a pitch? And I was like, sure. I mean, that makes sense. And so in December, we invited like anyone who we thought could potentially be an investor one day if we went that route. And it was friends and family and faculty that I'd worked with, and like people I knew from my job, and all these different people together in one room. And looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a real tipping point for us. So that was in December of 23. And we had been looking for property really in earnest starting that fall. And we had worked with real estate agents, and LoopNet, if you're familiar, is like the commercial real estate site. I was basically like addicted to this website. I was checking it like every 20 minutes for new listings, and we just kept falling flat. And my favorite story is we were working with a real estate agent, and Evan was at a conference in San Diego, and I'd gone out there with him. And she calls me and she was like, I found a great location. And I was like, okay. And she was like, but it's too small and it's too expensive. And I was like, okay. And she said, if you're familiar with the Fox and the Stowe on 4th in Italian Village, if you're looking at the front, the adjacent property to the left, that's now like a parking field. It's something ridiculous. It's like not even a 1/10 of an acre, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember the specs on it. But she was like, it's that property. It's, this is the acreage, whatever it was. And she was like, and it's listed for $1 million. And I said, thank you so much for that information. I appreciate it. And I remember crying like when I hung over that phone call, because I was like, unfortunately, Evan and I are not independently wealthy. Still working on that. And we haven't hit the lottery yet because we don't play. And so it was just like, I don't know how normal people are supposed to do this. It was very like put a pin in the balloon pop moment. And so we like took a little break to like regroup, and then got back in. And I'd seen the property that we bought a couple of times, and I'd always been like, this doesn't look right. I don't know why, but I was like, not interested in this one. I'll leave that. And one day I was like going through, and we had pinned some properties that we were about to go tour. And we were like scrolling back, and Evan was like, what's that? And I was like, oh, I've looked at it a few times. Like, here are the specs on it, whatever. And he's like, let me see. And like, I click in, and he's like clicking through the pictures, and he was like, we should see this. And I said, well, I don't even remember what my like reservation was, but I was like, I don't know. And he was like, we should go see this. I was like, okay. So I called the number on the listing right then, and it was for sale by owner. And he was like, I'm actually here now if you want to swing by. I was like, we'll be there in 15 minutes. And it had a fully operating soft serve ice cream shop on it. Did ice cream and burgers and coffee. It's called Double Happy. And so we come out, and it's like during service hours. So he's like answering our questions, pausing to get the drive-through window, make a milkshake, and like hand it back out the window, like very much like mom and pop shop. And, we pull up, and kind of like as soon as we turn in the parking lot, we were like, unless something is real shady and goes sideways with this person, this is it. Like immediately we knew. And, it was a great size property. It already had an existing structure. It was like super easy to get to right off the interstate. Like all of it worked. It's in a walkable neighborhood. Great. Awesome. All of it was good. And then we had the ice cream. We were like, well, this is actually delicious ice cream. So like, this is great too. And so we ended up buying the property and the business, and we closed on the deal at like 10 a.m. on a Monday morning. And at noon we opened that day for service. And so immediately it was thrown into the deep end of like, how does one run an ice cream shop?
Yeah.
And, like we're making the soft serve and now we're also making burgers and we got the grill going. And it was just like one of the most ridiculous parts of this whole thing. So it was like, that was not part of the plan, but here we are. And we had a great, the kiddos who worked at Double Happy before us, they like stuck around and like they were awesome. And, that's a whole case study on like employment and people working hard. And it's just like those kids, like they were the hardest workers I've ever seen. And like, so responsible, like just great team. And so he rated it as a seasonal business. He was running it from February to December. We decided we were going to pull it back and stop in October. And our plan was we were going to close for the season in October and start construction soon after to open as Bumble's Backyard in the spring. And so we closed down in October, and then we, started working with architects and contractors and like all of it. We got all the stuff in line. And then it was just kind of like, okay, now we're waiting on all of our approvals from the city and the red tape. And like, you have to get all of these different offices to say like, yep, sounds good. And the hard part about being the first of anything, of which, Bumble's Backyard is the first dog park bar in Columbus, is that it takes a lot of explaining to people because no one has any concept of like what in the world it is that you're trying to do. And so, every single county or city office, whenever they would review our application, would be like, oh, well, you can't do this because of this thing. And it's like, okay, well, but actually this is not that. You just haven't seen this before because it's this, right? It's different. And so, then it's February and then it's March and then it's April and then it's May. And we asked our construction partner, we were like, so if we're realistic standing here right now today, when are you breaking ground on this project? And he was like, no time soon. And I was like, okay. So I called the band up, my amazing team who had worked the prior summer. And I said, hey guys, we're opening in 2 weeks. Welcome back. You've got a job if you want it. And, we're going to open on Memorial Day. And they were like, all right, we're in. And so we cleaned, because whenever we closed for the season, I was like, oh, most of this inside is going to be demolished. So like, I'm not worrying about, anything, and packed up. And so it's unboxing everything and deep cleaning everything and, doing this on a 2-week time. And so we opened on Memorial Day for the summer. And we told the team, we were like, we will close at some point. We have no idea when that is. We will keep rolling. We'll try to give you as much notice as we can. We don't know much, but you'll know everything that we know. We don't know a lot. And so miracle of miracles, we closed the final weekend of July and we started construction the first week of August. And A, we had an amazing construction partner, but B, things just like nothing happened as fast as we wanted it to, but things kept happening to move things
There were no
along.
hiccups along the way. Big hiccups that would delay. Okay.
I think that we hustled really hard, and anytime a problem came up, Evan and I are, to everyone's detriment, a really ridiculously good team. And when I think about people who were like, I had this coffee with someone once because she had ran a Kickstarter campaign, and I knew that we wanted to do some sort of crowdfunding campaign as part of Getting Up. And so I met with her to be like, hey, I'd love to know more about like what your experience was and tips, advice, whatever. And she was like, well, is your co-founder your husband? I was like, oh yeah, like we're doing this together. And she said, I started my business with my boyfriend at the time. We'd been together a long time. And she said, this business completely drove us apart. And she said, I know it's a trope, but just keep that in mind. Like, be sure if you don't want to bring someone else in, or like when one wants to take a back seat, like just really be mindful. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And in my head, I was like, that is not us. Like, we are a force. And I have always felt that way. I will always feel that way. And so as we were meeting these like things that would come out of left field, it was like, this is a huge deal that could set us back 6 months. We will figure it out and we will get this done, and we will figure out what levers we're supposed to pull, and we will call everyone we know until, we figure out like how to move this forward. And I think that construction period really, really solidified and like clarified for me the importance of your community, because one of the most amazing things about Columbus and the Midwest, I don't know about the Midwest, at least Columbus, everyone wants to help you. Everyone really does want to help you. There is not a lot of gatekeeping happening in Columbus. And if we have a friend who owns Old Fields, one of the best dive bars in Columbus, in my opinion. And he was such an incredible mentor for us during this process. And we would go to him and say, like, this thing happened and like we have no idea what to do. And he'd be like, here's this person, call them, let them know you're a friend of mine, like they can help, they can actually answer that question for you. And so everyone wants to help you, and everyone knows everyone. And so we would call people, we play in a sand volleyball league on Sundays, and so people would always be like, okay, what's the update like this week? And we were having some like engineering issues. We have 2 engineers on our volleyball team. One of them like does city contract work and like utilities and stuff and like designs roads. And he was like, I actually know someone in that office that you need to talk to. And like, I can give you their cell number. And I was like, perfect. So just the community and being willing to say, I need help, and asking for it. People really do want to help you. So we had a lot of big things. And at one point, we said like our opening day has to be the first weekend of October. We need all of October to kind of get our feet under us before whatever the winter is going to bring. And at one point we were like, during the construction period, we're like, there is a good chance we will not open till the spring. Like at any moment, this could say like, we got to stay closed for the winter. We can't open this late. And so we opened the last weekend of October. And it was beautiful. It was perfect. The sun was shining. And it felt like getting the boulder to the top of the hill for sure. And I will never forget that everyone was taking pictures. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony. And everyone has all these pictures and videos. I blacked out. I don't remember, like, you could tell me I said anything. You could tell me anyone was there. You could like, I was just like, completely gone from my brain. And the one thing I remember is the Columbus Chamber brought like the big scissors and like brought the big ribbon. And Evan and I are standing out front, and I remember the sound of like the scissors slicing the ribbon, and it was euphoric. It was just like, oh my God, we did it. Like nothing should have allowed us to get to this point, and we actually did it. And it was unbelievable. It still is. I still can't believe we did it. I can't believe we're open.
That's incredible. What goes into creating a space that really cultivates community? Like what thought goes into building that?
Yeah. We wanted to think like, what is your favorite coffee shop? What's your favorite brewery? What's your favorite restaurant? Where do you take your dog? Like what does your backyard look like? As we were designing the space, our primary question that we would tell anyone, or that we would ask anyone who was working with us, is like, imagine that you're going to your best friend's house and they have like the best backyard. And it's not like the most manicured or has the fanciest furniture or like perfectly designed, but like they have the really good beer, and they have a really good playlist on, and they always have like the game on, whatever the game is. And they have like a board game cabinet, and you always meet someone new at their house, and you're like, how'd you even meet that person? Like, you've never heard you talk about this person, but like now I'm best friends with them. And just like, what can we do to like contribute to that? That's how we want it to feel, of like, our house is your house. Everyone is welcome here. There is no cool kids club. Like, we're all just buds hanging out together. And we did not want this to feel pretentious. We did not want this to feel like a social club. We wanted it to feel very much like, hey, I'm hanging out in the backyard tonight. Everyone's invited. Is how we wanted it to feel. And so we really took that mindset into designing the space physically, but also like how we trained our staff and also our staff, best staff in the world. Crazy dog people, all of them, and so kind, so hardworking, and they care so much about our members, genuinely. And their dogs. I should say our members are the dogs. The dogs have the membership that people get in for free. But they care about the dogs and the people very, very much. And so whenever we were training our staff, we were like, we want this to feel like it is your backyard. Like you are hosting all these people for the day. And like, what would you do? Like if someone dropped their drink, you would run up to the bar, ask for another one, and you'd give it to them because a dog knocked their drink over. If someone like can't start their car, if their battery died, like you'd help them jump their car. If someone was carrying something or like they were a teacher grading papers on the table and a gust of wind took their papers, you would scramble to get all the papers cleaned up. If, we want this to feel very much like we thought of everything.
You're just hanging out.
We're just hanging out and we're just all in it together. And so, from a design of the space perspective, all of our furniture is secondhand. And like Evan and I probably sanded it and stained it and replaced all of the bolts in it. And, we bought all of our stuff at auction. And so everything's a little mismatched, but like feels like a backyard. And we have like some of the best collaborators at our bar. So we serve one-line coffee beans. We use a local dairy for all of our milk. We have a great beer selection. All of anything that we sell has to be made in Columbus.
Love that.
Same. And so our tagline is by Columbus for Columbus. So anytime we can use a Columbus partner, we do. All of our t-shirts are, designed by a local artist and printed here in the city. Like everything we do is like all about Columbus. And we just think that like, again, that brings people in of like, whenever I'm at One Line, it was so funny. I was at One Line, shout out One Line, in the Short North the other day, picking up some stuff. And Eric, who is one of the, he's one of the trainers for like corporate or not like their partnerships. So he like did our coffee training with us. He's like behind the bar slinging coffees that day. And there's a dog inside. And the place is slammed. Like there's a line out the door. There's people waiting for coffees. They're also like under renovation. So it's like loud and there's like hammers in the back. And he like finally clocks me and he was like, do you have a card? They have a dog. They should come to Bumble's backyard. And so you don't get that kind of experience unless you're like in relationship with people and like bringing them in and getting them excited about what you're doing. And so I think that third space for me, what I want, it's all about collaboration. How many people can I bring in? Because it's not about me, it's about the community. And if people feel that community from the second they walk in the door, they're immediately more comfortable. They're immediately going to take ownership over that space too.
And like you said, those connections aren't just helping you, you're helping them. It's kind of a really beautiful symbiotic relationship there. Since you were in the shoes of someone who just came to Columbus and, you had felt like maybe that little bit of dread at first, like, I can't wait to move. What would you say to someone who's maybe in that spot, who's maybe just moved to the city?
Oh man. First of all, call me. I'll give you a list of places to go to change your mind. But unrelated, but very related. Growing up, I said I was a dance minor in school. I did ballet my entire life. And one of my teachers growing up, I remember her telling the story of her husband took a job somewhere I don't remember where it was, but it was like on the beach. And so the city that they lived in, the house that they lived in was like a 5-minute walk from the beach. And she said, I remember her telling me, I was so mad that we moved there, that the whole time we were there, which was maybe like 2 years, I never went to the beach. And it was a matter of principle of like, I don't like it here. I will not enjoy it. I will not enjoy it. Like I decided I was not going to enjoy it. And she said, I regret all the time of not just like enjoying it, like letting myself enjoy it. And I completely forgot about that story until the first time I was telling someone about like our Columbus journey. And it just like came back to me. And I was like, oh my God, that was me. Of like, I had decided like I will not enjoy this. And so if someone's moving to Columbus, what I will first tell them is welcome to the best kept secret of the Midwest. I kind of want to keep it that way. But the people are friendly. The food is good. The music scene is excellent. There's so much innovation here. There's so much creativity here. Everyone is so collaborative. Find your thing and get after it. You know, if that is, you're going to follow a local food reviewer and you're going to go to every restaurant that they do, like after they share about it. Awesome. If you are a huge football fan, find the best sports bar or find your favorite sports bar in the city and go every single football weekend and like make new friends. Like
Get to know the owners, get to know the people working.
yes, because they want to know you.
Yeah.
They want to know, like, put yourself out there as much as you can. And I say that as someone who everyone is always surprised to hear whenever I say I'm an introvert because they're like, that doesn't track. And I'm like, it actually does. So it's very hard for me to go into a situation like that and just like put myself out there. And every time I've done that, I've been like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did. Like I'm annoyed at how glad I am that I did that because I would really have preferred not to. But really find your thing, throw yourself into it. You will find people just like you who really want to connect, who really want to make this city amazing, wonderful, beautiful, creative, vibrant, thriving. And you get to be part of it. Like you are part of what makes Columbus amazing.
There's a lot of cities that you could put a lot into and they don't necessarily give back. Columbus is really good about giving back what you put into it.
Yes, certainly. And I think that that ties back into all the small businesses of Columbus. The number of times where I have gone to a place and been like, I just want you to know, like, you're doing such a great job. Like I was at Joya's a couple weekends ago. And I'm a vegetarian and they have like one of the best vegetarian menus of a non-vegetarian restaurant in Columbus. And I had my meal. It was amazing. And I walked back inside and I was like, hey, I just want to let you guys know, like, I really appreciate that your veggie menu is not just like, we took the meat out and put in some beans. Like, you're very thoughtful about creating like vegetarian things. And that is really appreciated. And I know that's a lot of work and I'm very grateful for it. And like the three people behind the counter were like, what's your name? And like, so I really think it is like, put your best out there and Columbus will give it right back to you. It is just such a reciprocal place.
Love that. When you look at the future of Columbus, what excites you? What concerns you?
Man, what excites me is I love that we are becoming, let me take that back. I love that our city leaders, in my opinion, and business owners and the people are really thinking about, we are growing. How do we do that sustainably? How do we do that in a way that's not just like making the city sprawl more? Because in Nashville, before I moved, it was definitely starting to feel not thoughtful as it developed. It was put as many people on top of each other as possible, 1,000 luxury condos a day, in a city where the design is not laid out very well. It continues to sprawl, like the city continues to get bigger. Whereas now I don't even know Nashville, and it's Evan was actually there last weekend and he was like, the traffic has truly become like you can't get anywhere in the city. And it's a very car oriented city. And so you can't do anything if you don't have a car. And so as I'm thinking about Columbus, I love, okay, we're already thinking about zoning and maybe we are a little behind, but we are thinking about moving forward. How do we get this done? We are thinking more about zoning and changing that so that it is not impossible to do something in Columbus. We're thinking about transit and we're thinking about sidewalk. The fact that there is a plan for putting in more sidewalks just gets me going in a way that is unbelievable. Whenever we bought the property that Bumble's backyard sits on, one of the first things I noticed on either side, we're on Brown Road, on either side of the road, The grass is beaten down because people are walking through there all the time and there are no sidewalks on either side of the street. And Brown Road is a very, very long road. There's no crosswalks anywhere. There is a red light that doesn't have crosswalks or like crossing signs. And so people are just like walking all the time and have no sidewalks to do it on. So I love that we're thinking about that. It excites me that we are a big city trying to be a big city, and thinking about like all that entails. So that really excites me. I love that we are kind of like getting our chops on us for being. No one ever, or everyone is always surprised that it's like Columbus is like a top 15 biggest city in the country. It does not feel that way. It feels very like quiet and quaint, and it's like, no, but it's like a powerhouse.
You're like 1 or 2 people removed from anyone in the city.
Right.
If that.
If that. And you can get anywhere in 10 minutes. It's like we have so many of those like small town qualities in a major metro. And I love that. And so I think if we're really trying to decide how do we maintain that, that excites me, that we're trying to keep that Columbus charm that we have. Things that I'm thinking about that concern me. I don't know, as a business owner who just opened, so I feel like this is all very fresh. One thing that was so frustrating for us was the level of red tape that we got from so many city, county offices. And I will spare all the details, but one of the big hiccups that we got toward the very end was we were told that we had to submit an application for this like variance that we would need, that we did not know that we would need. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not mad. But the application to submit in order to go before the board for it to be reviewed and voted on, I'm gonna mess this up because it's been a minute, but I think it was around $3,000. If you are Intel, you say, fine, submit the application. If you are a small business, that is payroll. So I had to give you $3,000 to submit a stack of papers for you to look at and then tell me that I could do the thing that I wanted to do. And that in that moment, that was crippling. Like that meant that like we would have to figure out how to pay staff, because that was truly like our staff budget for like almost a month. And that was right before we were opening, when we were bleeding money at that point, right? And so the timing was bad, yes, but the sentiment was the same of if you actually want small businesses to succeed, and they are what makes the culture of any place, then you can't use them as your punching bag for everything, like absolutely everything. And so whether that's like application fees or how many different inspections you have to have before you get a thing, or, I completely understand guardrails and like wanting to make sure everyone's like by the book and doing good things. And small businesses have a hard enough time existing without having to go through hoops that maybe are useful, maybe aren't. But yeah, I'm my concern is that it's going to be hard for businesses to thrive as we continue to grow if these kind of things like layer and layer and layer, and there's no one willing to stand up and say like, hey, what are we doing to support these people in our community who are trying to make it better through their business ownership?
Definitely. You mentioned a few of them already. Favorite place besides Bumble's backyard?
Obviously.
Favorite places to eat, drink, just hang out in Columbus?
Man. Okay. I'm really bad at answering this question. So if I want a sandwich, I'm going to Good Friends in Jackie O's, specifically their tomato sandwich will change your life. On Sunday night, we always get Oxby's, which is in the Brewdog in the Short North. They have the most amazing tofu wrap ever. Gourmet is a pizza place on 4th in Italian Village, that like wood fire pizza made to order, crazy ingredients, divine. For coffee, I mean, I'm a sucker for one line. Always a go-to. I also love Moonbird over in Grandview. Candace, the owner, is incredible, so creative. My favorite brewery in Columbus is Wolf's Ridge. I love Wolf's Ridge so much. But also, second in line is probably Derive. Great vibes, great beer, super friendly group. I love Dough Mama's quiche. They make an incredible quiche. If you need vegan baked goods, but I don't even want to qualify with vegan. They have the most amazing baked goods. Happy Little Treats in the Short North. They're doing some witchcraft in there to not use butter and make a thing that good. Like, it's absurd. Favorite place to hang out? I haven't spoken about that. I mean, I really only hang out at Bumble's backyard now, so this is a really hard question for me. But we live in Italian Village, and so the Seven Sun patio is just kind of like a very easy place to be. I feel like that is very comparable to Bumble's backyard of just come hang out and enjoy yourself. But I also really love the Daily Bar, also in Italian Village. Very great atmosphere, really comfortable and cozy. Great vibes, great selection for drinks. Very good place to hang out.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yes.
Last thing, any other thoughts, questions? Where can people find you?
Yes, people can find me at Bumble's Backyard almost all the time. I am on Instagram at Lauren Haley if you want to know about the behind the scenes business ownership. For Bumble's Backyard, you can find us at Bumble's Backyard on Instagram, bumblesbackyard.com. We are physically located in Franklinton. So just if you know where Land Grant is, about 5-minute drive from Land Grant. And other things, just water the trees you want to keep. If you want to see a business exist, you got to go there. You got to tell people about them. You have to follow them on social media and share, and you have to lift them up and really be there for them. And that thing goes for friendships too. Water the trees you want to keep. Invest in the people that you want to see thrive. And I think that's the kindest thing that we can do for each other.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to ask. If you don't have a dog but want to come over for a beer,
Yes.
can you do that?
Yes, please come hang out. No dog required. We always say that dogs pay the cover and humans get in for free. So one of my favorite moments so far of the last 8 months is a couple weeks ago. We had this couple come in on a Saturday morning, and I was working out in the yard. And I see them come through the gates, and I don't see a dog, and they don't seem to be connecting with any dog. And they sit on a bench in the middle of the action, and they sit there for a minute. They go up, they order coffees, they come back, and they're just sitting there. And so at some point I go up to the bar and I'm like, hey, that couple right there, did they bring a dog? And they're like, oh no, they're just here. I was like, cool. They were there for 4 hours, and they came literally just to have coffee and see dogs. That was it. And I was like, I love that for you. Come all the time. Come hang out. We had these younger gals come one time and without a dog. And I said, how'd you hear about us? And they said, we woke up this morning and Googled where to pet dogs, Columbus, Ohio. And I said, I am so glad that I was the result for that. So yeah, if you need to just get your dog fix, come hang out with us. It's a great time.
Perfect. Thanks so much for coming on, Lauren.
Of course. Thanks for having me.